Ethan had never imagined that his life would lead him to the farthest corner of the galaxy. A human engineer, trained for spacecraft repair and medical devices, he had been sent to the alien kingdom of Scifi to assist with their royal medical exosuits. These were advanced machines designed to help disabled members of the royal family move and function comfortably. Among them was Princess Lyra, the youngest daughter of the ruling family who had been unable to walk properly since childhood. When Ethan first arrived, the palace looked like nothing he had ever seen. Towers of shimmering crystal reached toward the sky, and courtyards glowed softly under artificial suns. Hovering vehicles moved gracefully along the paths carrying nobles and servants alike. The air smelled faintly of metal and ozone, a scent that reminded him of space stations back home. But despite the beauty, Ethan felt the weight of being a stranger in a world that moved with elegance he could barely keep pace with. He was first introduced to Princess Lyra in a softly lit room filled with glowing panels and delicate machinery. She sat in a hovering mobility chair made of crystal and light, her hands resting gently on its controls. Her silver blue skin reflected the warm lights, and her large violet eyes regarded him with quiet curiosity. Unlike the other nobles, she did not bow or offer polite pleasantries. Instead, she said, "You are the human who fixes things that don't move on their own?" Ethan laughed nervously. "Yes, Princess. That's me. I'm here to make your chair work even better." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "Do humans always do what they are told?" "Not always," Ethan admitted. "Sometimes we fix things just because it feels right." For the first time in years, Lyra smiled. It was subtle, but it lit up her face in a way that made Ethan's heart beat faster. He spent the next few days inspecting her mobility chair, adjusting the delicate mechanisms and upgrading the controls for smoother movement. As he worked, he began to notice little things about Lyra. She had a sharp mind, a dry sense of humor, and a quiet determination. Despite her disability, she was quick to read people and situations, and she spoke with a confidence that many nobles could never match. Other palace members treated Ethan with curiosity, and sometimes with condescension. But Lyra treated him differently. She asked him questions about Earth, about his life, and about simple things like why humans laughed the way they did. Ethan found himself opening up in ways he had never done before. He told her about the cramped apartments of his childhood, the stars he watched through telescopes, and the engines he loved to tinker with. She listened, genuinely interested, and often asked follow-up questions that revealed her sharp intelligence. As days passed, their bond grew. Ethan modified her mobility chair further, adding new features that allowed her to navigate the palace with more freedom. When she tested it, she laughed out loud, spinning gently and feeling the wind on her face. "I feel like I am flying," she said, eyes sparkling. "I have never felt this free." Ethan smiled, proud of his work. "You deserve to feel free, Princess. You've been too careful for too long." Despite their growing closeness, Ethan remained unaware of the deeper intentions behind Lyra's interest in him. She had spent years observing the humans who visited her palace, analyzing their customs and behavior. While other aliens avoided her, treating her disability as a barrier, Lyra saw in Ethan something rare: respect and kindness without pity. Slowly, she began planning a future that included him. Quietly, carefully, without letting anyone else know. One afternoon, as Ethan adjusted a delicate sensor on her chair, Lyra asked, "Ethan, do humans often marry someone from another world?" He paused, unsure how to answer. "Marry? You mean like a wedding?" "Yes," she said softly, her gaze fixed on him. "A lifelong partnership where two individuals promise to care for each other." Ethan chuckled awkwardly. "Well, sometimes. It's not very common for humans to marry aliens. Most people stay with their own kind." Lyra's eyes did not leave him. "Why not? If two beings care for each other, does it matter where they come from?" Ethan felt a warmth in his chest at her words. "No, it doesn't," he said. "I think what matters is trust and respect. That's what makes any partnership work." Lyra nodded but did not speak further. Later, Ethan noticed that the royal staff began behaving strangely. Maids whispered behind doors, measuring his clothing size in secret, and the advisors gave him curious glances. He dismissed it as palace politics, but a small part of him began to wonder if Lyra had told someone about him in a way he didn't understand. One evening, after Ethan had finished his work for the day, He wandered into a quiet hall near the princess's quarters. There, hidden behind a velvet curtain, he discovered a scroll glowing faintly with ancient runes. His curiosity got the better of him and he approached. The scroll's contents stunned him. It was labeled Human Marriage Contract, Groom Ethan of Earth. His hands trembled as he read the formal text, outlining ceremonial obligations, royal titles, and duties expected of a human groom. Ethan stumbled backward. He could feel his mind racing. Marriage? With the princess? She planned this, without even telling me. He could not imagine what to do. His first instinct was disbelief, then anger, and finally a strange sense of apprehension. But deep down, he realized he had grown fond of Lyra. Her intelligence, her courage, her laughter. They had captured his heart long before he even understood the scroll's meaning. Over the next few days, Ethan tried to observe Lyra's behavior more closely. She seemed unusually quiet, thoughtful, and at times distant. When he asked her about her mood, she would smile softly and change the subject. It was as if she were waiting for him to discover the truth herself. He noticed small gestures that seemed intimate. The way she adjusted her chair to glide near him, the way she asked for his opinion on matters that mattered little to others, the way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't watching. Despite the whirlwind of emotions, Ethan continued his work, repairing and upgrading the mobility devices for the royal family. Yet every time he saw Lyra, a new awareness settled over him. She was planning something and he was at the center of it. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying. He had spent so long navigating technical problems, never considering that he might one day navigate human-alien relationships. Of all things. One evening, after the palace had quieted down, Ethan found Lyra alone in the garden. The soft glow of the artificial moon bathed her in light. She turned toward him and said, "Ethan, you seem troubled." I don't know how to say this," he admitted, glancing down at the ground. "But I found a scroll. It mentioned me." "A marriage contract?" Lyra's eyes softened and she nodded. "Yes, I chose you. I did not tell you because I wanted you to know me first without fear or obligation. I wanted you to see me as I am, not as a symbol." Ethan felt a strange mix of emotions, surprise, confusion, and most unexpectedly, warmth. "You chose me?" he asked, struggling to comprehend. "I did," she said gently. I hope you will consider it when the time comes. But you are not bound by this. You may leave if you wish. I will understand." Ethan stared at her, words failing him. He had come to admire her courage, her intelligence, and her independence. The thought of leaving now felt impossible. Yet he also knew the path ahead would not be simple. The Alien Council, the royal family, and the strict traditions of Scifi could make his life very complicated if he accepted her proposal. Days passed in a blur. Ethan worked during the day, but every spare moment was filled with thoughts of Lyra. He noticed the subtle ways she tried to communicate her feelings. A hand extended slightly when passing tools, a chair hovering closer when discussing repairs. The way she shared her favorite music from Earth she had found online. Each gesture, small as it was, deepened his understanding that she had carefully orchestrated their closeness. One afternoon, a council meeting was held in the Grand Hall. Ethan accompanied Lyra to oversee the technical demonstration of her mobility suit. As the demonstration progressed, he observed the advisors and nobles, noting their curious glances. Some whispered, others exchanged knowing smiles. He finally understood. The entire palace was aware that Lyra had chosen him. He realized then that their bond, which had grown naturally, had been acknowledged silently by all. When the demonstration ended successfully, Lyra turned to Ethan, her violet eyes gleaming. "You see," she said softly. "You help." Ethan could still feel the weight of what he had discovered. The royal scroll, the hidden plans, and the whispering maids had left him uneasy. He had always known alien cultures could be complex, but this was personal. Lyra had been quietly preparing a path to marry him without ever telling him, and that realization sat heavily on his shoulders. He found her in the palace garden the next morning. The gardens were immense, a mixture of alien flora with strange glowing petals and crystalline trees that hummed softly when the wind passed through. Lyra was seated on her hovering chair, her hands lightly touching the petals of a luminous flower. She looked serene, almost expectant, as though she had been waiting for him. "Ethan," she said softly when she saw him. "You discovered the scroll." He nodded, unsure of what to say. His mind was racing with questions, fears, and the strange sense of honor that had begun to take root in him. "Princess Lyra, I didn't expect this. I didn't even know humans were considered for marriage here." Lyra's eyes shone and she tilted her head slightly. "In my culture, the choice can be made quietly. It is a gift and a test. The royal can choose someone outside the expected lines, and the court is informed only when the royal deems it ready." Ethan took a deep breath. He could feel the tension in the air, the subtle watchfulness of the palace guards who had quietly begun to follow him as well. He studied her carefully. "So, you chose me." "Yes," she said simply. "Not because you are a human, not because you are strong or skilled. Because you see me. You see me as a person, not as a princess to pity. Others treat me like I am fragile, but you make me feel strong." Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had never thought of himself as extraordinary, yet the sincerity in her words made him realize that their connection was deeper than he had imagined. "Lyra, I don't know if I can accept this. I care about you truly, but marriage, it is such a big step, and you deserve someone who fully understands your world, your people." Lyra leaned forward slightly, her hands brushing against the glowing petals of a flower. "And yet you helped me stand, even if just in small ways. You treated me as an equal. That is worth more than knowing every tradition or every law. I am ready to face whatever comes if you face it with me." Ethan looked around, realizing for the first time that the palace was not merely a collection of stone and metal. It was a place full of history, politics, and expectations. The weight of her words, combined with the reality of the situation, pressed down on him. But beneath it all, he felt a spark of determination. He would not abandon her, nor would he turn away from this unexpected connection. In the following days, whispers began to circulate through the court. Some nobles openly questioned the decision. "A human, really? Does the princess not see what this could mean for the kingdom?" Others were more subtle, offering advice in hushed tones. "Perhaps it is an honor to choose differently, but you must consider the customs. The council may not approve. The queen may intervene." Despite the murmurs, Lyra remained calm. She continued her daily routines, attending meetings with advisors and guiding palace affairs with her quiet but commanding presence. She insisted that Ethan join her during some sessions, and he quickly realized that his perspective as an outsider often helped her make decisions more clearly. His presence, once thought to be insignificant, had become invaluable. One afternoon during a council meeting, a high-ranking noble spoke with a sharp tone. "Princess Lyra, we respect your choice, but are you certain? A human cannot fully understand the intricacies of our customs or the responsibilities of a royal consort. Perhaps we should consider a suitable match within our own lineage." Lyra's expression did not waver. "I have chosen, and my choice is not made lightly. Ethan has proven his dedication, his understanding, and his loyalty. That is all I require. He is worthy of standing beside me." Ethan felt his heart race. The courage in her voice was inspiring, yet the tension in the room was palpable. Some nobles muttered under their breaths, clearly displeased, but none dared interrupt her again. Days turned into weeks as preparations began. The palace organized rituals that combined both alien and human customs, and Ethan was taught the meanings behind every symbol, gesture, and phrase. He struggled at first, feeling clumsy and unsure, but Lyra encouraged him patiently, guiding his hands and correcting his mistakes gently. She laughed quietly when he fumbled, and those moments of shared joy strengthened their bond further. During a quiet evening in the gardens, Ethan found Lyra watching the stars, her chair hovering slightly above the glowing grass. He approached her slowly. "I still can't believe this is happening," he said, his voice soft. Lyra turned to him, her eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. "I did not expect it either, but sometimes the heart chooses before the mind can reason, and mine chose you, Ethan. Not because it was easy, but because it was right." Ethan knelt beside her, feeling a deep sense of connection. "Then I accept. I will stand by you, Lyra. Not because of duty or honor, but because I want to. I choose this too." Her eyes widened slightly, and then a smile broke across her face. "You truly understand, Ethan. That is all I could hope for." As the days passed, the palace buzzed with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. Courtiers debated, nobles whispered, and the queen herself observed quietly from her chambers. Yet no one could deny the authenticity of the bond growing between the human and the princess. Finally, the day of the ceremonial announcement arrived. The grand hall was filled with dignitaries from across the galaxy. The air shimmered with anticipation. Lyra was positioned at the center, radiant despite her humble and unassuming demeanor. Ethan stood beside her, nervous but resolute. The chief advisor stepped forward, his voice echoing through the hall. By royal decree, Princess Lyra has chosen her consort. Let it be known throughout the kingdom that Ethan of Earth has been accepted as the royal partner, in accordance with our traditions. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some faces showed shock, others curiosity, and a few bore thinly veiled displeasure. Yet Lyra remained composed, her hand resting gently on Ethan's. Then, in a gesture that surprised everyone, Ethan raised his free hand and addressed the assembly. I accept this honor. I do not know everything about your world or your ways, but I will learn. I will stand with Princess Lyra, not as an outsider, but as a partner. Together we will face whatever challenges come. A hush fell over the hall. The declaration carried weight, sincerity, and courage. Even the most skeptical nobles could not ignore the truth in his words. The queen entered at that moment, her eyes calm and discerning. She approached Lyra and Ethan, her expression unreadable. After a long pause, she finally spoke. A partner who gives strength to the soul is greater than one who gives strength to the body. I see that this bond is genuine. It shall be recognized. Relief and joy washed over Lyra and Ethan. The tension that had haunted them for weeks lifted, replaced by the promise of a future built not on obligation but on choice, respect, and love. The preparations for the interspecies wedding continued with renewed energy. Ceremonies were planned that honored both human and alien traditions, ensuring that the union would be celebrated across worlds. Ethan learned to navigate the subtle nuances of alien etiquette, guided patiently by Lyra, who never let him feel inadequate. On the eve of the wedding, Ethan and Lyra shared a quiet moment in the palace garden. The stars glimmered above, mirrored by the glowing flora around them. Ethan reached out, taking her hand gently. I never imagined I would be here with you preparing for this. Lyra smiled, her eyes shining. Nor did I. But sometimes life chooses for us, and we only have to be brave enough to accept it. They sat together, sharing stories of their pasts, hopes for the future, and quiet laughter. In that moment, the palace, the council, and the galaxy at large seemed distant. All that mattered was the bond between a human who had dared to see the princess as she truly was, and a disabled alien princess who had quietly chosen her partner in the most unexpected way. As dawn approached, they knew that challenges would come, that not everyone would accept their union easily, but for the first time they felt ready. Together they could face the unknown, strengthen each other, and redefine what it meant to be partners across worlds. The story of Ethan and Princess Lyra was no longer a tale of duty or expectation. It had become a story of respect, courage, and love that transcended worlds. And as they looked toward the future, they knew that whatever came next, they would face it side by side, chosen by each other and accepted by the galaxy.